so you're all facing the group. Make sense? Come to a moment of silent prayer as John's fellow firefighters and emergency services personnel that he's worked with throughout the years come forward to pay homage to him. I want you all just to look to your left if some of you haven't done that yet. See that blue, Mr. Trimmer? Should make you guys pretty proud. You guys in the back are getting thumbs up from the family. When we get together for these things, whether we knew the person or not, it's a very stark reminder that when an emergency happens, whether it's a car accident, whether it's a building on fire, whether it's somebody stuck in a flood, whether it's a cat up a tree, we don't care who comes when we call. We just care that they come. And it does not take a special person to do that. Everybody always says, emergency service, you're a special breed of people. No. They're just a breed of people who choose to use their God-given talents in a pretty special way. And John was certainly one who used his God-given talents. So today, before our formal funeral service, members of the various departments, as you can see, John, he had a little bit of everything. If there was an emergency, John, as I joked in the back, probably had a plan of action for it. He probably had some type of equipment that would make the outcome be okay. But we're going to hear from several of his colleagues during our time today, and I would ask that, again, you just continue to meditate in ongoing prayer for all those men and women who pick up the call to serve whenever those tones go off. Let us begin. We gather at this time to pray our last tributes to our departed friend and comrade John, who has responded to the call given by our Heavenly Father. As we go through life, we are constantly reminded of the certainty of death and of the uncertainty of its appearance. But when the decree has been issued, as it has for John, let us all be as well prepared as he was. We, his friends and co-workers, pause to express our appreciation of him as a firefighter, a loving husband, and friend to so many. Whatever his frailties and faults may have been, they are overcome so much by his virtues, his truths, and his loyalties. John will always be remembered as one who gave willingly of his time and talents in the service of his fellow man. At this time, I'm going to ask past chief of the Raritan Township Fire Company, Station 21, Steve Wetter, to come forward to share some of his memories of John.
Hello, everyone. When I was asked to come up here and speak on behalf of these ladies and gentlemen here, it was quite an honor. And I thought, yeah, no problem, it's John. And, well, it's not so easy. What do you say about a guy who has dedicated his life to the service of his community and his country? And as you can see, as he has, I'm going to speak to just one small chapter in his life, his role as a firefighter. And it is somewhat personal for me. I had the pleasure of meeting John back many years ago when we both were at J&J. We overlapped back there. He was near the end of his career. I was just getting started, but there was enough overlap that he got me involved in the fire brigade up at that campus. And no pun intended, that reignited my desire to be a firefighter. Fast forward a few years later, I joined up here, and who was there to wait for me? John. And right away, we clicked. He became somewhat of a mentor to me. And I remember running many calls, sometimes in the middle of the night, the two of us alone in a truck, talking. And we talked a lot about firefighting, about the firehouse, the community, but more about pride, honor, respect, leadership. As we all know, these things were very big for John. And I'm honored to have learned so much from him. And I hope that it helped me to be a better firefighter and a better officer. I know it helped the fire company and our surrounding fire companies. John just kept going. As the years wore on, I caught up to him as he did to all of us, and he started running a few less calls, but he stayed active. He was in our office, and he was doing things in there that, quite frankly, a lot of people didn't want to do or didn't know about. The thankless tasks, the paperwork, the NIFRS reporting, the OSHA paperwork, any regulatory stuff, and he happily did it and did it well. And anyone who was in the department at that time that was at that office was John's office. Sacred, you didn't go in there, and if you did, you didn't move anything, because everything was just as it should be. And as much as we joked and gave him grief about it, is something to really respect. And he did tasks for this company. He kept the lights on. He kept this fire company going. And he was an inspiration to many people in this room, as you can see. So I just want to keep that brief and say that that was the service to the fire company, and he helped so many of us. But as he evolved and times evolved, he did move on. And you're going to hear from other people from other parts of his life for what he did. But I would just close by saying thank you, John, for all you did for me personally and for all of us in this room. And we're all better off, and the fire company is better off for having had him in our lives. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. I would now like to bring up another man who's known John in a lot of different roles, because he himself has a different role, different hat all the time, but he is coming to speak to you as a representative of the Raritan Township Office of Emergency Management, our former coordinator, current deputy coordinator, Frank Venziali.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Again, I am also as honored to be here, and on behalf of Chris Phelan, our current coordinator, wanted to extend his condolences and apologize not being here. We'll see Chris tomorrow. But today, I just wanted to briefly talk about John and some of the our life with John when he was at our office. John got involved and helped me when I started as the coordinator of Office of Emergency Management when I was there, and John is a special person and has had his way, and I know that when you hear stories like this, you agree that was John. John kept the schedule. When John volunteered or John was working, John was there for the hours that he said he will be there. He was more diligent than our paid employees. I mean, when he said 8:30, he meant 8:30. I'm sorry, he didn't mean 8:31. 8:30, you were there. By 8:35, he was calling me to see who I was there. I go, John, this was a volunteer thing. You know that, right? God bless him. But so he was there, and he kept us on the straight and narrow all the time with John. And we would go to the office. He would arrive. Again, he puts in a full day's work, tiring us out. And we were looking through pictures. DJ had contacted us because we wanted to add to the collages. And you notice there's so many pictures of him, but yet there's so many missing. I do want to say that because, John, when in the social things happened, he's set to his schedule. It was time that we're all going to take the break and finally go out to lunch. John said, no, that's my time with Olga. And he went home, and that's, Olga. We eventually got Olga involved just so we can, see John and Olga home.
That's her cert badge.
That's it, right? Exactly.
So that's not
right. So it was a family event, and still though, then they would go to lunch together at home, and I'm like, but no, this is a part of it. You said you would come to lunch with us now, but so we had that. But when John said something, it meant for everyone. John also served as our 911 coordinator. All right, and he sat with me one day after I was informed that he got this position, and he took it to where it needed to be, and finally got it started. And he went out, and the first warnings he wrote was to all the committee people and our coordinator, because their houses weren't worked appropriately. Because when he took a job, again, it's the job. That's what it says. And how do you start by anyone else? So they were warnings, not tickets, thank goodness, because I thought that was it in my career. But and then finally, the other story I had was when he helped the fire department, we'd always go out and help. And if you asked John we'd go up maybe early if we got there because we were in staff. John would arrive, and his car, by the way, the car that the township gave him, he can give him the oldest car going, but it'd be the most beautiful car that the fleet had because it's beautiful. But anyway, he would arrive, and I don't care if it was for alarm activation or a structure fire, that if you said shut the development down, he shut the development down. Nobody was getting in unless you had a fire truck and he recognized you. So again, he that's a lesson that's being lost. So sometimes we're a little too lenient, but he took that to extreme, and just such pride. He cared sincerely about each and every one of us. I know myself personally, my family, my sons. He was always asking about them, and in fact, when they were in 4-H, sidebars, I know he had some trains, and they helped him with that. And it's just John was a talent, and a lot of them were hidden, and you didn't know about it. So I'm honored to be here today with you and to celebrate, and that's what it is, celebration of John's life. So thank you, and thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. So again, we're going to talk during the funeral about John's inability to sit still for more than 30 seconds. He had to be doing something to help other people. That was just his world. And so, of course, after he retired from J&J, and he and Olga traveled and could do whatever they really wanted, he decided he was going to get another job. Where is he? There he is. He went to work for the fire marshal. So I'm going to ask the Raritan Township Fire Marshal, Dennis Conconnon, who's also past chief of the Three Bridges Fire Company, to come forward and share with us some of his thoughts.
So when I first kind of started out and showing some interest in doing fire marshaling, fire investigations, that type of stuff, John was one of those guys who took the time, who let me hang around these fire scenes after the fire was put out so I could learn how to do some of the fire investigations and things like that. And eventually I went off and I started working in Raritan Township. And a job was opening up in Raritan Township, and John was insistent that I apply for it. And I guess that all worked out pretty well. John was one of those guys who was incredibly passionate about everything that he did. There was nobody was voluntold to do anything when John was around, because he was the first one to volunteer to do it. No matter what the job was, no matter how thankless or miserable it was, the 911 coordinator thing in the street numbering, the street addressing, is not a fun job by any means, but he loved doing it. Going out and inspecting the cisterns and getting those all numbered and labeled, he loved doing it. He was a volunteer with our office, but he worked, up until the pandemic, he was in the office every day. He was putting in 30 hours a week as a volunteer. Almost full-time hours as a volunteer. It was absolutely incredible. being able to work with him and that institutional knowledge that he brought from 20-something years of being with the township, knowing why things were done a certain way, that's irreplaceable. Whether it was stuff, emergency service related, or even stuff around the municipal building. We had gotten a TV in our office, and John said to me, because we were kind of talking like, it'd be nice if we had cable, so we could watch like weather reports and stuff like that. John's like, oh, well, I happen to know where there's some cable laying around up in the attic of the municipal building. I'm like, all right. So I go and I talk to the administrator, and they were okay with it. So John and I went up into the attic of the municipal building and started running cable all through the attic and dropping it down walls. But that's just the type of guy John was. And I'm definitely going to miss our afternoon chats, and certainly everybody in the municipal building is going to miss John and his passion, but most of all, his friendship. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. In a moment, I'm going to have a very dear friend of John's, someone who actually, John referred to many, many times as the son he never had. And Drew is going to explain a little bit of the significance of this bell and lead us in the last call. And I announce that because it may get loud a little bit here in a moment. So for those of you who have different hearing issues or hearing aids you need to adjust, please, I would encourage you to do that at this point. After the last call, I would ask you just to remain, again, in reverence where you are sitting as the fire department pays their final respects and files out of the room. And then we just want to give them a chance, as we have departments from Flemington and Milford and all over with us today. We want to give them a chance, for whoever would like to come back in and sit down and join us for John's life celebration ceremony, the chance to do so. So we appreciate your understanding as we give this very large group, number one, a thank you, and number two, the ability to come back and join us. And something I don't do, I don't think I've ever done it as a fire department chaplain, but I'm going to do it now because I know John would really want the pressure off of everybody thinking about him and on to somebody else. But he would really want you all to give a big round of applause to all these men and women for all of their service. So let's just go ahead and do that right now. And it's in that spirit, let us all just close our eyes as we recite the very famous and very deep firefighter's prayer that we pray for all those whenever they go out and answer an alarm. When I am called to duty, God, wherever flames may rage, give me the strength to save some life, whatever be its age. Help me embrace a little child before it is too late, or to save an older person from the horror of the fate. Enable me to be alert, to hear the weakest shout, to quickly and efficiently to put the fire out. I want to fill my calling and to give the best in me, to guard my every neighbor and protect their property. And if, according to your will, I have to lose my life, please bless with your protecting hand my entire family, especially my wife. Drew?
So this is what we call as the bell ceremony. So throughout most of history, the life of a firefighter has been closely associated with ringing of a bell. As he begins his tour of duty, it was the bell that started the shift. Throughout the day and night, each alarm was sounded by a bell. His radio's going off, which called him to duty. Okay, throughout the day and night, each alarm was sounded by a bell, which called him to duty and to place his life in jeopardy for the good of his fellow man. And when The call had ended, and when the alarm was completed, it was the bell that rang 5 times to signal the end. And now, my brother, John D. Trimmer, has completed his task, his duties well done, and the bell rings 5 times, followed by a pause, 5 times, followed by a pause, and 5 times in memory of his tribute to his life and his service.
Present arms.
Raritan Township Fire Company, Office of Emergency Management, Fire Marshal's Office. This is the last call for Wife Member, Deputy Coordinator, and Fire Inspector John Trimmer. Repeating, 21 fire announcement, Raritan Township Fire Company, Office of Emergency Management, Fire Marshal's Office. This is a last call for Wife Member, Deputy Coordinator, and Fire Inspector John Trimmer. May you rest in peace. 1529, operator 166.
Order arms.
I'm going to ask you if you are able to please rise as Lieutenant Krause removes and retires the honor guard from Raritan Township Fire Company. Go to the center. Face it. I'll get them out for you. Go right in next to him. You may be seated, ladies and gentlemen. And yes, for those of you who are wondering, this is John's radio. And yes, I had it on all night because if you've been to John's house, you know that he could not sleep unless there was the squawking of a radio. So, given our friendship over the years, I had to make sure my friend had his radio on. To mourn John is not right. He leaves us with too much goodness for us to mourn. I know we have many people watching who are from out of the area, and we welcome you to our time today. And we ask that as you are with us, just put aside all the stuff that we tend to accumulate whenever we're at home, and just pretend you were sitting with us today and just simply be. And that is my goal for all of you today, just to be in your own moment, to feel what you need to feel, and to celebrate John and Olga. Let's talk about that for a moment. Some of you are not sure what that is over there. That is Olga's urn. And many times when it's not unusual to have a husband or a wife in their urn out to be placed in the casket of the other spouse when they're buried. That's quite normal. What is not so usual, though, is to have the urn out with all those beautiful flowers and all of the things that make you think about Olga, because in 2017, we all gathered in this room and had her life celebration service. So today should be about John. But if you knew John, you knew that he would come back and beat me up, even though he never beat anybody up. But he would come back and haunt me if I didn't give his better half, his words, top billing. So I told the florist today, I said, when we were, obviously I order different things and I have a budget, and I said to them, but I need you to spend the number N1. And he goes, what? $1? I go, yeah, I got to spend $1 more on Olga's flowers, because if John thinks I didn't spend more on her than him, he ain't going to be happy with me. You all, you know. So, again, I smile and I laugh through my tears, because to celebrate John is to be grateful that he is with his beloved Olga. That the two of them are in the most beautiful garden ever dreamed. That the two of them have no pain, no suffering. They're with their puppy dogs and having a nice lunch. We heard from Steve and Frankie and Dennis, who all touched on those themes of John's life that I don't need to expound upon because you all know. John wanted today to be simple. He didn't want a lot of things to be said about him, and too bad. I win. Till I get there, and then I don't win. But you know John. He was the most outgoing, shy person you ever met. He didn't like the limelight. He didn't like the spotlight. He was always involved with things that the spotlight was on, but he didn't want credit. He just wanted to be actionable in his approach to life. Think about that. Actionable in his approach to life. We got to talk a little bit about his approach to life. Diligence. We joke about John's following the rules, but it makes us all better. We're better and we love John more because he followed the rules so diligently. It made him the compassionate, caring, loving guy that we all knew him and know him to be. It was following the rules and showing people like Steve as a young firefighter, Frankie, Dennis, all the ways of the foundation on why things work. John was a foundation guy. He wanted to get to the root of why it all worked and build from there. He knew that a structure, we had a house here somewhere, could fall down if it wasn't maintained well. And so it is with all of our lives. Health is health. I'm not going to talk about John's health because you know 3 or 4 types of cancer, open heart surgery. He beat it all. And he never once complained. Half of you didn't even know he was sick. That wasn't his way. He'd ask for help if he needed it, but he never wanted to be a burden to anybody. Something him and I fought a little bit about. Because as he got older and Olga had passed, he never wanted to bother anybody. And I said, John, you're not bothering. We want to be there. And he'd let you in to a point. He'd let you in. I wanted to read a passage from Scripture today that is, it's about as old school as it comes. It's about as funeral as it comes. And most of you know I don't like to say things that you've heard at other funerals before, but this is an old faithful for a reason. And when you think about John growing up in Highbridge, we saw his parents as his brothers are smiling when you come in the door there. And if you look right over here, this picture is his grandfather and his uncle with little John in a fire engine from Highbridge. You'll notice there's no cab. Yeah, it's a wagon. So I don't know if that's what got John started as a little boy. But it talks about the circle of life and the things that we all experience. So you've again heard it before, Ecclesiastes 3, to everything there's a season, the time to every purpose under the heavens, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to mourn and a time to dance. This whole back and forth about life, you know, the end and the or. John got it. John got it from a little kid going off to Vietnam and seeing the world, a world that no young man his age should ever have to see. And here we are again. And I know John would want you to pray for Ukraine right now because we had a little chat about that too. But John knew that to everything there was a season. He knew it. He tried to live his life so that all of us experienced only the good stuff. The planting, the laughter, the dancing, He always wanted others to be happy. He always wanted others to live their lives in the most beautiful way possible and following the rules. Got to do that. So as we gather to celebrate John's life today, the best thing we can do to honor him is, of course, to go out and volunteer for emergency services. Got to get the plug in there somehow. But if not for emergency services, to volunteer for our communities in some way, shape, or form. That could be as simple as going out to pick up garbage on the street. That could be volunteering for municipal government. That could be coaching a soccer team. It could be anything. But the point is, don't keep your talents, don't keep your God-given talents locked up. That's one way to honor John. The next way is to leave here and put out into the world the level of love, dedication, and compassion that John put into every single task. Even something as mundane as going out to get the mail, John put those 3 things in there. And if we live our lives like that, we honor John Dwight Trimmer. We honor who he was, who he is, and who he will always be. I said at the outset that we're going to have a time for anybody to speak from their hearts, so we're going to open that opportunity now, and I'm going to ask Drew to come forward to begin our time together.
So I have 2 main buckets when I think of John. I think about my fire service memories, and I think about some of the personal memories that I have. So we started out professional, the fire service, and then transitioned more into more of like a personal friend. So the top of my list, I'm going to start with the fire service stuff. That's the easier stuff for me. But his beloved ladder tower, and when I saw DJ with the picture, way back when the ladder was first bought, it was the first one in Raritan Township. It was 2169. It was a 4-digit number, and it just broke my heart seeing that picture of that ladder tower there, because that was his pride and joy. He used to wheel that thing all over the place. Second to that was his was one of our other little engines. It was the KME. He's smirking because I say that, because in the fire service world, it's different manufacturers, similar to like a Ford, a Chevy, and KME is just not my favorite kind of apparatus. I got it in. John Pierce is a premier apparatus, and Raritan Township has switched to that. But the way he was able to operate that vehicle, the old KME, the stories of him driving through the circle, the Flemington Circle when traffic was that bad, parting the seas. But the way we could pump that truck was just incredible to me. I think down to his service, he never had the great fortune of being a chief of the department, but I think for me, he was definitely one of my chiefs and my greatest mentor. So he served the safety officer many years throughout the town. So I didn't give you this picture, but I need to. But the fire prevention, that was definitely something that we really did, and we really got down on the kids' levels and talked to them and showed them the importance about that. And I always think of things he always said is, you have a captive audience, these little kids, let's talk about fire prevention, fire safety. Uniforms were always tight center, always buttons right in the line, everything was ding. I think about spit shine boots, from his Vietnam days, of how his boots were always on point. You could literally look down to see his face. I mean, we may or may not have spent a couple trainings on how to spit shine shoes and doing that, but he taught me how to do that. So, and 2 other fire things is the investigations, we touched on that. Just digging and looking for the cause and why that happened. And, you know, we all talk about the fire service here, but we were literally one of the last peoples there when we turned the property over to the people, and to see the people, you know, at their wits' end, and we would give big hugs and talk, and we would try to find out and bring closure to these people. So that's just who Trimmer was. And the last thing with fire inspections is the good, bad inspector. So there'd be many a times that him and I would do inspections, and he knows exactly where I'm going with this, is everyone would like pin us against one another, right? Well, what's he doing? He's going to write. And John said, I don't know, you got to talk to this kid. He's writing it. He's writing this down. You got to say it to him. But the way we would go around and do inspections, and it was just awesome. Maybe the inspector in person I am today. So now more towards like the personal stuff. So I didn't ever have the pleasure of meeting his German Shepherds, but learned a lot about Bandit. He talked about Bandit a lot. Talked about Murphy. I remember talking about going to fire calls and how the dog was in the back of his pickup truck, and no one would go near the pickup truck. And Murphy, how the dog would be on guard the upstairs bedroom, like he didn't even have an alarm back then because the dog was just that. His proud military service, we talked about that a lot. And then, you know, something real personal is his amazing husband, right? You have to think about this. In my early years, he taught me to be the man, the husband, the father that I am. And we had many conversations in the cars in town talking about that. And just seeing the love for him. And now we talked a little bit about the one extra up on Olga. That's just unbelievable. And I do get this from him, but having a perfectly green front yard and well manicured. That, Heather's watching online, she's working right now, but she could tell you, we would always drive, coming back from Flemington, always drive past 8 Summer Shade, check out the lines and how the lines were perfectly done. And I definitely get that from him. And just the attention to the detail of all his lawn equipment being everything all neatly cleaned and everything. So, couple other quick things here, but you know, the scanner, it was so perfect, having the radio going off and always 24/7. You know, we'd always talk about the calls going on in the county. Did you hear about this and that? There's just a certain kind of person that always listened to the radios. And I think the thing that's going to be hard, and he knows that I used to work a lot on the county dispatch still on Thursdays. That's when I usually work. And I would call him on my way home pretty much every time. You know, he'd be listening to North Response 1, listening to Fire 1, just listening to me, because he always had, you know, Summer Shade scannings up, was always listening to Mercer County. So it was really hard this last Thursday. But I know he was listening, and it made me feel proud that he had his radios on, DJ. That meant a lot, because that's definitely who we are. So, as we say in the fire service, we'll take it from here, John. Thank you.
Who else would like to come and share? Sure, come on up. Mayor? Absolutely. He'll get mad at me, but I do feel I need to give a proper introduction to the mayor of Raritan Township, Gary Hazard.
No, I wanted to, I was the mayor last year.
That's right, we are in 2022.
That was a disaster year, so yeah, this year I'm on the committee, but I want to, thank you all for coming. It's these ceremonies, I've been to quite a few with family that are in fire and rescue, and they're just amazing. I cried, so, but, I'm here. Robin was here also, on behalf of the township. I want to thank the family and everybody else, friends, for giving us John, right? I mean, John was, like everybody said, fully committed and an amazing person. And the one thing I didn't know we weren't paying John. I'm serious. I'm a man. I have no idea. And the second thing is, Yeah, we always gave him the worst car, right, for inspections, because we knew that if we gave him the worst car, it would come back twice as good after we gave it to him, right? So
That would be as clean as the moon.
it absolutely would. It absolutely would. But the real reason I'm standing up here today and speaking, and I was thinking about it as I was sitting back, is so in the last 4 years, and DJ knows, my father suffered terribly from a very advanced Alzheimer's, very accelerated, and as my mother has too, since she was diagnosed at 69, my father diagnosed about 4 years after that. And where John comes in is that, and I can tell you, in our building or on scene, John was always busy. So I never really got to know John, right? John was, hey, Committeeman Hazard, how you doing there? John, anything I can do to help? Nope, all good. What? And he's always going someplace to do something, right? So really never got to know him. And again, I got lost in COVID time the last couple of years, but probably a year and a half ago or so before my father went into assisted living in Bridgewater at Sunrise, I would pick up my father 2-3 times a week, and I would take him, out for lunch, right? And John loved going to the deli right around the corner here for his little lunch break, right? And I would see John, probably at least once a week or so over there. And if we hit our timing right, I'd bring my father in, who was in a pretty bad state. And John would always come over, sit down with us. And what I saw in my father was, again, in a very advanced state of Alzheimer's, my father would open up. My father was at the time 78 years old. So they weren't that far off. And they would talk about their military service. And I would literally see my father wake up. And it was just really, really amazing. And I really cherish those moments. And I can truly remember the last time I had taken my father out, before he went into the assisted living, what I would call his last lunch, right? I took him out. We really went out to lunch. I like take him to the store to get him walk around. And the two of them, and again, John never had time for anything because he's always busy doing something, but John would take time. They talked for like an hour, right? And I'm like, John, aren't you on the job right now?
Not getting paid.
Yeah.
There you go.
And just an amazing moment. And sadly, my father went to assisted living, and my father passed away on Christmas Day last year. And the reason I got up here today is I got to know John as a person, absolutely amazing person. But what I really want to thank him for the most is seeing my father the way he was before Alzheimer's. And with that, I really, God bless John, God bless his family, and thank you for his wonderful service. Thank you.
Who else would like to share? Sure, come on up.
Hi, I'm Angela. I'm John's niece, daughter of Bob Trimmer, his brother. I wasn't planning on speaking today, but I wanted to share a little of what I remember growing up, because when I moved away and got married, I lost touch with Uncle John and Aunt Olga because I lived in Pennsylvania. But I remember I was part of the fire. Going to see him in the parades that he was in.
Yeah.
Dad would always take us to them. And at all the family gatherings, how he just loved to make us all laugh. I mean, he was a comic. If you look at the picture in the top left corner of him and my cousin Billy, they're wearing matching robes. And they got stuffed animals, I mean, they were just, because Grandma got all the men the matching robes for Christmas one year. And Uncle John just loved to, let's throw it on and be fun, be silly. He graduated high school in 1964, and I was born in 1964. And then I'm sure some people know, he played the trumpet and the bugle. And when he was in Vietnam, he played with the USO. And I was little, I was first born in our family, and my mom, what she would do is write Uncle John while he was over there, as if it was me talking to him. So then he would write back to Mom, but answering questions like he was talking to me. I also called my mom's sister, Janice, who is 7 years younger than my mom was, and John was 10 years younger than my dad was. And when Dad and my mom were dating, Janice and John were teenage years, so he didn't even know Olga yet. But I called my Chechi Janice, tell her that Uncle John passed, and automatically she said, "Oh, my stock car buddy." And I went, "What? Your stock car buddy?" She's like, "Yeah, we used to annoy your father and mother on dates, and we'd tag along, and they'd take us to the stock car races in Flemington, and we'd sit in the back seat and annoy them, and then we'd walk around, as my buddy, we'd walk around to the stock car and just eat our way through the race, you know, and we'd hit the concession stands." So that's how my Chechi Janice remembered him. John was in their wedding, so was Janice. Janice, you know, so they were there. And one time, I remember when my cousin Joanne, Billy, my sister Colleen, Laura, unfortunately, sorry, you weren't, I don't think you were there yet, because Laura's 10 years younger, but you would have been right there with us. When they lived on High Bridge Main Street, my grandparents, they'd have Memorial Day picnics and all that, and we'd play ball and everything, but they lived on East Main, and there was this house, a yellow house, across the way on Main. And us kids would sit there on the stairs going down to Main, but there was a cupola up in the house, and it was shaped like the Addams Family house to us when we were kids. So we always thought it was haunted, and we always thought we could see people up there. So Uncle John would just go along with all this, and we'd be sitting all down there, and we'd be telling stories about, "Oh, did you see that?" And then it'd be dusk. And there's Uncle John coming around the corner, but we didn't know. He'd come up behind us and just, bleh! Well, we would just jump out of our skins because we were so scared. But he'd always laugh, and we just laugh about it. And so those are some of the things that I remember, and I wanted to share with you about younger days. I hear, you know, and I was so proud of him for being a firefighter and all that. And I miss Aunt Olga, too. And so, thank you.
Thank you so much. Who else would like to share? I know it's hard to get up. Sure, absolutely. Come on up.
No, you weren't. She wasn't expecting it. I grabbed her on the way. We live on Summershade Lane.
Yes. Neighbors.
Neighbors. I've been John's neighbor for 30 years. So he and I were the historians of the neighborhood. And we watched people come and go. I have one here that's been here for a while, living right next door to him, number 10. I'm 11, he's 8. So Drew touched upon it, the green grass. Try living next to him.
Oh my goodness.
Your grass looks brown or gone,
Yeah.
and people could go putting on his front lawn with the lines, and it was perfect.
Yeah.
And you'd say, "So John, what do you do?" "Oh, well, you got to do this," and you knew he had that big John Deere tractor that he cleaned, and it looked pristine. 1 year or 2 years in a row, he lent me his power washer. Now, you know, when I returned it, it was cleaner than when he gave it to me, because I did not want to get in trouble. But he was kind enough to let me use it. Olga, you could always go to them for advice on your trees or your plants to say, "What do I do here? What do you think?" And they'd give you advice. Okay, I'll keep talking. Okay. I was the blubbering fool in the back before. So, you would see him out there with a bucket and one little tool to get the dandelions. And it's like, "John, there's only 2. "Oh, no, Judy, you got to get them all, and you got to get it from the root." And you're like, "But look at that other house. It looks like a field of dandelions." "Yeah, they got to treat that because it's blowing into my yard." So
That was our yard.
no, I wasn't naming anybody's names. It
That's
could have been
okay.
across
You
the
could-
street.
you could name
Could have
us.
been
It's
across
all
the
right.
street too. So the yard was pristine. The house was always in order. I mean, you know, oh, there he is. He's power washing the house again. Okay, well, we're gonna have to clean ours. So he had a bar that you just had to follow because you didn't want, you know, to disappoint him.
Right.
He never said anything badly to you, but you didn't want to disappoint him. And it was nice to see him doing his walks when he was recovering from whatever surgery. He'd be out there walking, and you know, it was just, they were such a loving couple. You knew they truly loved each other like you've never seen before. And lastly, this, I don't know if your kids remember this. So my kids during trick or treat would go to their house and they'd say, my son would say, oh, the Trimmer's house is the best house because they give the full-size
yes.
candy bars.
Yes.
So, yeah. So, what else?
You know, when we moved in, about 16 years, Mark? Thereabouts. It's my husband back there. Mark is the gardener of the house. I have a little bit of a darker thumb, and he got it from his dad. So when we moved in, we looked at their yard, and we said, oh, God. You know, like, how do you keep up with that? It was beautiful. And, you know, we're next door, so our lawns touch. And you could always tell where our lawn ended and theirs began.
Yeah.
And as beautiful as my husband tried to keep the lawn, which it was lovely, you know, but John and Olga, they just had it in them, you know, and we'd always see them out there, and Olga was always down on her knees on one of those pads doing something, and Mark was like, I gotta get out there and get some stuff done, you know, I gotta look like, you know, we're really trying here. But the sweetest, most genuine people.
Yeah. Very sweet, very genuine.
There's not too many of them,
No.
you know, and it's
No.
sad because
And
they'll be missed.
They will be very missed. And we purposely, in the neighborhood, I think you can knock on any door and anyone there will help you. I purposely did not knock on his door because he would have been there in a flash and you didn't want to take advantage of him. So you just always would say, oh, yeah, I took care of that, John,
Right.
or I did that.
Yeah.
So I didn't want him always, you know.
You know, and after Olga passed, he was quiet, you know, and
Much quieter.
we didn't see him outside as much, and, you know, we just felt so bad because we knew he was missing her so much.
Yeah, yeah.
They're together now.
They are together.
And it's nice for John to be back with Olga, but we'll miss him.
Yes, we will miss both
Yep.
of them. We
Both
still
of
miss
them.
both.
We still miss Olga. So anyway,
Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Go back to, you know, in a world where most people don't know their neighbors anymore. That's true. You can still go next door and get a cup of sugar. That says something about who John and Olga were, are, and always will be. Thank you, ladies. Who else would like to share? They get harder to follow, right? How do you think it feels for me? Anybody? Okay. So obviously I've known John, you know, many years through emergency services, and then of course, when you have the ministry that I have, people let you into their lives in very different ways. So with that perspective and keeping private what needs to stay private between John and I about life and death, I want to kind of bring our time together to a close with some of the things that John himself learned since Olga's death, and how I'm very confident he wants you to move forward, because he told me. First, though, before we conclude, I want to let you know kind of what's going to happen for tomorrow. Again, tomorrow is open to everybody. For those of you who wish to join us, we're going to ask that you be at the funeral home about 9:15. John's casket, providing the weather holds out, will be in the Raritan Township brush truck, which is the one out front that has the bunting on it. We'll have the hearse just in case, but that's where his casket will be. We'll have many vehicles already lined up. You'll pull in. Members of my care team will be outside, and we'll just pull you right into line And about 9:30, we are going to leave in procession to Washington's Crossing National Cemetery. We have a 10:30 time spot there, and this is spit shine military. This is no showing up late or whatever. I can't tell you the route we're going to go yet because I have to see what apparatus shows up, because certain apparatus you don't want to take over the Washington Crossing Bridge that it's about wide enough for me to walk. I don't know how we get the cars over, but we do. And I don't think, as I joked before in the back, although John probably has a planning sheet for a bridge collapse, and we could pull it out and make it perfect, we'd rather not chance it. So I don't know which way we're going yet, but we'll be going a way that you could certainly follow. It'll either be the free bridge or the toll bridge. For those of you who are going ahead, you can go to Washington's Crossing National Cemetery. I would suggest that you just wait kind of inside by the office, and then you'll see us pull in and then just join in line. But when we go to the cemetery, we stop at the main office. I have some paperwork to file with the immediate family, and then we proceed to the committal shelter, where military honors will be rendered. We'll have a short committal prayer, and that will conclude our time together. It is fairly quick at the military cemetery. We will be done by 11 o'clock, and you'll be heading back to the Flemington or whatever other area at that point. And I announce that just in case people have work or you're trying to plan time and you're not sure, but you want to be there. That's kind of the timing. For those of you who are watching virtually, again, that link that brought you here today is the same link that will bring you to the ceremony tomorrow. And for all of you who are watching this, or for a family of friends who couldn't be here or even watch it, in about 3 to 4 days, everything that has been recorded will be made into a movie, which will be put on John's website in perpetuity, so that those who couldn't be with us today for the fire service, the funeral service, or tomorrow's committal prayers can actually watch it. So feel free to be able to watch that at your convenience. So again, here tomorrow, 9:15. We are leaving at 9:30, no matter who is here. So you must be here by 9:30 at the latest. After our concluding remarks here, members of my care team will come and call you row by row to pass by where I'm standing. You can pay your respects at the casket, and then you can depart the building. I would ask that as you come forward and as you leave, you remain in a state of silent contemplation, so that those who are coming up have their chance, because this will be the last time at the open casket, to pay your respects. And in true John and Olga fashion, the flowers that you see here today, majority will be donated. We have a couple of special needs children's groups we work with. What was neglected to say, John loved the kids. I mean, if you saw John around a child, his face, and some of you alluded to it, I mean, he'd just be transported into a new world. So the kids, the special needs kids, will have a life skills lesson where they'll break these flower pieces apart, and then they'll get taken to all the local nursing homes and given to the residents, put on the tables for dinner. So a lot of use will go out of them. And I know Olga for many years did a lot of master gardening classes at the nursing homes and helped the residents as they got older and their dexterity wasn't good, and she helped them relive their green thumb. And we thought that was a nice thing. So that'll be John and Olga's continuing gifts. Again, if you have any questions about tomorrow, please see a member of my care team. They all have gold name badges on, and they're happy to help any of you with whatever you may need. So back to John and my conversation. So I would see John often because I'm a Deputy Emergency Management Coordinator. I'm an EMT with Flemington Raritan. I am very honored to bury most of the emergency services personnel in and around Hunterdon County. So I know a lot of people, and John and I's worlds would always overlap. Obviously, I was there when Olga passed away, and John would always stop by, do a fire inspection. He and Drew would play good cop, bad cop, and I'd be like, really, you two? It's me? What do you mean I can't have 18 things plugged into one outlet? That's not allowed? What do you mean I can't run wires under carpet? We can't do that? Oh, it's a fire extinguisher. It doesn't need to work. You just got to put it up to look pretty for the marshal. Oh, wait, that's you. Change your batteries, everybody. We just had daylight savings. Did you all change your batteries? Yeah, that's right. Right? John? Education, education, education. But where I was going with it was when John would stop by, which became very frequent after Olga died, it was a good once a week, and like everybody, I could almost set my clock by it. Although with me, he was a little more understanding because he would check the funeral schedule and then come, and if I wasn't there, he'd text me, "Why aren't you here?" "I'm sorry, John. Mrs. Smith died. I had to go." "Oh, that's okay then." Some of you are laughing because you know it's true. But he would stop by and much more frequently, which I always enjoyed. But our conversations took on a whole new topic, and it was, "Is Olga okay?" And I said, "Well, John, no, she's not." And he'd look at me. And I said, "Because you're here, and like you miss her, she misses you." And he'd look at me, and I said, "But I really think she's happy." And then he'd look at me, and I said, "No, she didn't meet somebody new." He'd laugh. He goes, "You smart ass." I said, I think she's happy because I think heaven is a place where there's no pain, no suffering, and only light, peace, and hope." And he'd look at me, and he goes, "I like that. I think that too." He was brought up, Protestant in Highbridge, had his different beliefs, different spiritual beliefs. And he said, "Do you think because I don't light candles at church or something that I'm not going to see her?" And I said, "No, John." I said, "If you changed who you were and are, then yeah, you might not get into heaven. If you decide to go drinking and driving, you're not going to get to heaven. If you decide to go, beat up a cat, no, you're not going to go to heaven. Like those are, but that's not you." And he looked at me, and again, he did not like praise. He did not like commendation. He did not like people touching upon feelings. And those of you who know me know I just go right in. And I said, "John, you're a good guy. You're hardy stock. They don't make you like that anymore." And I said, "That's a shame." And he looked at me, and I said, "Yeah, I'd like to be more like you. If we have a little bit more love, if we have a little bit more compassion, all those things that were talked about, that all of you said, even his humor. I mean, you knew at that little squint of his eye and that little cock of his corner lip, you knew something was coming, and it's like, oh man, what's John going to do now?" But he was worried that she was happy. He wanted to make sure he was going to get there. And he thought, in some way, because I deal with it every day, I might have a map. And I said to him, and he had his little silver, I brought it, it's somewhere over there, his little silver flip up, kind of looks like a ticket writer thingies. Technical term, Dennis? Ticket writer thingies?
Close enough.
Sorry, John, I know you're going to yell at me when I get there for not having the technical name down. But he'd have his little thing there. And he said, "John, I appreciate how diligent you are, but it's not written down in the manual. It's not there. There's a manual that I think can help guide you. And it's the book that you told me you read as a kid. And I read from it before, Ecclesiastes 3. I said, "But John, you have patterned your life after the good book. You found faith in your own way. You lived your life with hope. And you grounded everything you did in love." I said, "So it's not going to be, page 36, section V, part 2.3. It's not, I can't do that for you. But what I can do is tell you that if you continue to be the John that we all love, that we all go, sometimes, but we all get a hug from and really, really feel it, because I was a recipient of a lot of those hugs, you'll see her again. Now, I'm a firm believer, and I had to smile because when I went up those stairs to his bedroom and found him lying in his bed, he went to bed the night before and didn't wake up, folks, just so you all know. This was as wishful for those we love as it gets. He literally went to sleep and didn't wake up. He didn't thrash. He didn't flail. He didn't try to call 911. He went to sleep. I'm a firm believer that when he closed his eyes and they opened, Olga was right there. And he took one look and said, "Lawn looks pretty good, babe." But there's an old adage, "Well done, good and faithful servant. There's a crown prepared for you." That's from the good book of Timothy. And I think we all say to John, "Well done, good and faithful servant. Inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world." If anybody's getting to heaven, if there's ever a map to follow, the life of John Dwight Trimmer is certainly a good way to go. I want to leave you all with a quote by Nikki Bannis. And again, it goes back to what John would want you to leave here with, which is being stronger in your own faith, whatever that might be. Stronger in hope of a brighter tomorrow. And grounding all you do in love. And it's simply entitled Hope. If you carry one thing throughout your entire life, let it be hope. Let it be hope that better things are always ahead. Let it be hope that you can get through even the toughest of times. Let it be hope that you are stronger than any challenge that comes your way. Let it be hope that you are exactly where you are meant to be right now, and that you are on the path to where you are meant to be. Because during these times, hope will be the very thing that carries you through. Let us unite in prayer. If you want to take the hand of the person next to you, put your arm around him, whatever you feel comfortable. COVID's changed a lot about what we do, but whatever your comfort level is, please do. Good and gracious Creator of us all, who we know by many names and many images, we are grateful for the life of your child, John, who sits in that place promised in John 14, that room with many mansions and gardens and perfect friggin' grass. Heavenly Father, we ask that as his family and friends struggle to figure out how to move on without the physical presence of John and Olga in their lives, let them be strengthened by the knowledge that John and Olga and all those that they loved, including their precious German shepherds, are with them now, looking down on all of us, still with us, guiding and directing us whenever we need them. Creator of us all, allow us the ability to slow down the noise in our life, to realize that it's just noise, and allow the lessons of John and Olga Trimmer to direct and guide us until that time we're reunited in that place again where there's no pain, no suffering, but only light, peace, and hope. And every time we pray, in whatever way we pray, allow us to bring John's light into our hearts and allow us to try to do as he would have done. And now, in the words you gave your children, let us be so bold to pray together. In the words that John prayed his entire growing up and that gave him strength after Olga passed away. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. The Lord guards our coming in and our going out. May God be with us as we make this last physical journey with our brother. Let us all say, Amen.
Aim, fire. Aim, fire. Aim, fire. Reset, arm. Order, arms.
States Army, and a grateful nation, please accept this flag as a symbol of our appreciation for your loved one's honorable and faithful service.
Thank you.
These are the rifle shells that was just fired during loved one's military honors. There are 3 shells in that bag. They stand for duty, honor, and country.
Thank you.
Free law schools.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
You may be seated. Yeah, take a minute. It's hard to. The tears are a little frozen right now, I'm sure. But I know John is pleased with the military precision and the fact that the grass is starting to turn a little green. As I was telling the ladies in the office when we were doing the paperwork, you know, John would love this place because they get the lines perfect every single time. So a place like this, you know, always brings back a lot of thought, or it should, because we're at a military cemetery. But I invite you all just to turn around and look at that flag flying on that big flagpole right there. Just not stand up, just look. See it? And you see, look at the graves. You see some of the little flags that adorn the graves. A lot of times when we go to a cemetery and we see those little flags and the little markers that say veteran, we don't truly understand what that means, in my opinion, because it becomes commonplace. You see a flag, you salute, you stand up, you try to do the right thing, right? But when you have a ceremony like this, it reminds you of the true meaning of why we are all here and what that flag really means. So as we start our more secular service, I think it is appropriate and that John would want us to all pause for a moment of silent prayer for those who have given the ultimate sacrifice, for their families, all those who are buried, but more importantly, and it's even more important now than ever, for the men and women around the world who are serving so we can stand here in freedom and peace. I have friends all over the world. I have friends in Ukraine right now who can't properly bury their dead because of snipers, grenades. That's a real thing. That was a real thing before Ukraine happened. But now we can appreciate it a little more. So let us say a silent prayer now and give thanks for all those around the world who are serving so we can stand here and celebrate John's life in freedom and peace. Before I get into our words, and I promise I'll be short today, I just want to thank specifically the Honor Guard here at Washington's Crossing. Those men and women who play the trumpet and fire the volleys are all volunteer. They do it every half hour, all day, every day. That ought to tell you something too. So we thank them. Obviously, I want to thank the Raritan Township Police Department, the Flemington Borough Police Department, Lambertville Police Department, and all the other police officers who assisted in today's escort, as well as obviously the Raritan Township Fire Company, Flemington, Milford Fire Departments, Raritan Township Office of Emergency Management, Flemington Office of Emergency Management, and all the others, especially the Fire Marshal's Office and all of John's Raritan Township municipal colleagues. I see we have a bunch of you here today for all of your love and support. It hasn't gone unnoticed nor unappreciated by the family, and so on behalf of them, they thank you from the bottom of their hearts. As I was debating, knowing that it was going to be 0 out, and I think John planned that because he wanted me to be short, I was debating how to conclude our time today, and I want to piggyback a little bit on the message of hope that I gave you yesterday, and then I want to give you a message from John, and then I'm going to ask Chris Phelan from the Office of Emergency Management of Raritan Township to come forward and lead us in our final prayer. Whenever we're at a cemetery, it always interests me what people have on their headstone. Some are very simple, others are more involved, and when you come to a military cemetery, you have the option to put 3 lines of epitaph, 22 characters including spaces. Not a lot to get the words that describe 2 wonderful lives, because we honor Olga as she is being cradled in John's arms inside their casket right now. And I started to think about what could be put onto John's, and then I remembered what is on the grave of somebody that I use his readings quite often, the poet Khalil Gibran. Maybe many of you have read him. And if I could steal it, I would for my own. I'll give him credit, I guess. But Khalil Gibran wrote about life, death, and everything in between. And on his stone, it simply says, I am alive like you. I am standing beside you. Close your eyes and look around. You will see me in front of you. I'll read that last line again. Close your eyes and look around, and you will see me in front of you. John and Olga are with us everywhere we go. As I said yesterday, if we're actionable in our pursuits of goodness, kindness, compassion, we honor them. If we do the little things in life, stay a little more humble, and be a lot more loving, we honor them. And when we need them, all we have to do is close our eyes and look around, and they'll be there. I'm going to ask Chris Phelan to come forward to lead us in a final blessing of light.
Let us pray. May the blessing of light be on you. May the blessed sunlight shine on you like a great peat fire, so that strangers and friends may come and warm themselves at it. And may light shine out of the two eyes of you like a candle set in the window of a house, bidding the wanderer come in out of the storm. And may the blessing of the rain be on you. May it beat upon your spirit, and wash it fair and clean, and leave there a shining pool, where the blue of heaven shines, and sometimes a star. And may the blessing of the earth be on you, soft under your feet as you pass along the roads, soft under you as you lie out on it, tired at the end of day, and may it rest easy over you when at last you lie out under it. May it rest so lightly over you that your soul may be out from under it quickly, up and off, and on its way to heaven. We pray. Amen.
When I am called to duty, God, wherever flames may rage, give me the strength to save some life, whatever be its age. Help me embrace a little child before it is too late, or to save an older person from the horror of the fate. Enable me to be alert, to hear the weakest shout, to quickly and efficiently to put the fire out. I want to fill my calling and to give the best in me, to guard my every neighbor and protect their property. And if, according to your will, I have to lose my life, please bless with your protecting hand my entire family, especially my wife. To everything there's a season. A time to every purpose under the heavens. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to plant, a time to pluck up that which is planted. A time to mourn and a time to dance. I have no doubt that anybody got to heaven quick, it was certainly John joining his beloved Olga.